Coming up on show 605, we're talking about some small European city cars, new accessories for your Tesla, and why VW are happy to let others play with their toys. Those stories and many more, and I do mean many more, coming up on today's podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're listening in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily for Wednesday, 9th of October. My name is Martyn Lee, going through every EV story I can find and saving you time by just whittling it down to what you need to know. And I've done a terrible job with that today because although I started with 25, 30 odd stories this morning as I've spent the day looking through about the essential news, frankly, I've got it down to 13 stories. And so I'm just going to crack on. Thank you to myev.com for helping make this show. They connect buyers and sellers of used EVs in the USA. They work with dealers and they help you learn more about EVs as well. Check out myev.com. Thank you to a new Patreon supporter, you, George. George Kinghorn is a new producer of this podcast, and if all our surnames come from days of yore when our surname had a direct relation to the job we did, I only presume that George's ancestors were the king of all horns. Thank you, George Kinghorn, for being a new producer of this show. Right, let's kick off with some news about small city cars. First of all, OPEL is bringing its all-electric CORSA-E to production at the very beginning of next year, otherwise known as Vauxhall, depending on where you're listening around the world. When it was part of GM, OPEL started selling the Bolt EV as the Ampera E here in Europe as its first electric car. I see a few of those around, not too many. However, they were sold to the PSA group. It all got a little bit sticky for a while. People that had wanted one then weren't going to get one. Anyway, according to a story on Electric today, that the Corsa-E, OPEL or Vauxhall, depending on where you're buying the car, 50 kilowatt hour battery pack, 205 mile, that's 330 kilometre range, 30-minute fast charging to get to 80%, an 8-year battery warranty, and by early 2020 you'll be able to get your hands on one of those. They say city performance is the important thing, not 0 to 60, 0 to 30. That's the speed that they're proud of, 2.8 seconds. And you know what? Away from the lights, on a typical city road where the speed limit is 30 miles an hour, or 50 k's, 2.8 seconds is about as brisk as an EV needs to be. The Opel CEO is Michael Loscheller, and I got a quote from him. He says, and I quote, "The Corsa is not only one of the most successful models in recent history, with sales of around 14 million units in the last 37 years, but a milestone in our electrification offensive. As of early 2020, we'll be building the Corsa-E in Zaragoza. The Corsa-E will be the first fully electric Opel made in Europe." Notice they put that one in there, made in Europe. "It's a very clear sign that we are bringing the future to the Zaragoza plant with the new Corsa. It's going to start at about 31,000 euros, 34,000 US dollars in the UK. I would be buying a Vauxhall. The rest of Europe will be buying Opels. Right, moving on. Another small city car from Europe, and that is the Peugeot Electric 208. According to Automotive News Europe, Peugeot had planned to build 10% of the new Peugeot 208s as electric versions. However, there's a problem. We'll check in with the CEO of the company, Jean-Philippe Imparato. He says this, and I quote, "Of the 40,000 qualified leads we received, half were for the E208. A quarter of the pre-orders were for the E208. End quote. And he said that to Automotive News Europe a few days ago on the sidelines of a media drive for the 208. The Peugeot 208, very famous model, small, it'll fit 5 adults in a squeeze, but otherwise it is very much a city car. The electric 208 is going to be a very important car for them. And how amazing is that? They'd planned for 10% of the overall sales of the new model to be electric, and now it's a quarter. The E208 is all about lowering the total cost of ownership. So a low deposit on finance, and you know me, I'm not the biggest fan of finance. 3,500 euros, less than $4,000 deposit, and then you're just paying $400 a month, the same as the petrol version. And that's brilliant. The residual experts have looked at what it'll be worth in however long time for the finance options, for the leasing, for the PCP, whatever it is, and they said, you know what, the electric car price parity with the gas car. Use this as an example next time someone says, I'd love an electric car, but they're all way too expensive because they think they're having to spend 150 grand on a Porsche Taycan. The Peugeot E208, the same finance cost as the piston versions. I think that's a huge moment. Just me? No, I think that's a huge moment in the world of EVs. Not having to say, price with savings, take off your fuel running cost. This is your basic finance cost. Same whether you're buying the electric or the gas car. That is so cool. According to Car Scoops as well, because they talk about this story, as things stand right now, the CEO of Peugeot believes the electric model could reach a double share of the overall mix. He says this, and I quote, "My work is based on facts, and the only fact right now is that we can take the E208 up to 20% of the total production of 300,000 units a year." 60,000 units then, with my rudimentary math skills. 60,000 units a year is what they're able to make of the E208. They obviously have battery supply contracts in place, factories ready to go. I must admit, it's gone a little bit under the radar for me. I didn't know that they were capable of making so many. It's a lot, right? 60,000 units a year? Seems like a huge number. Anyway, I suppose not in Tesla Model 3 standards, but you're having to source those 50 kilowatt hour batteries and all the bits that go with them for your first proper mainstream super mini electric car. I think that's a really big achievement for Peugeot, and well done to them. Okay, so it is a $35,000 car. In the UK, it's a £25,000 car. Of course, we get £3,500 off the list price in Europe, which is 32,000 euros. Awesome, just awesome. Let's talk about Polestar. They've announced the performance pack pricing for the Polestar 2. The electric performance Model 3 competitor, 300 kilowatts of power, 78 kilowatt hour battery pack. Polestar 2 is definitely about performance. It comes with the performance pack, which will be the first one they sell. It's going to have all the driver aids, dynamic driving. It's got Brembo brakes, 4-piston Brembo brakes. It's got some specialist adjustable dampers, 20-inch forged alloy wheels, and all sorts of extra performance-y bits as well. In Norway, It will be very popular in Norway. An extra 50,000 NOK in Germany. It's going to be Germany, Netherlands, Belgium. There's European countries, 6,000 euros extra in the UK, £5,000 extra. And the chief exec of Polestar is Thomas Ingeleth, says this, and I quote, "The Polestar Performance Pack allows us to take the Polestar 2 driving dynamics to the next level. Some highly specialised additions tuned by our engineers deliver an even more engaging and unique Polestar experience. Want to reserve one? You can go to polestar.com and get in the queue. 2020 delivery is guaranteed. Fully refundable deposit if you fancy one. It is not going to be cheaper than a Model 3. You don't get the Tesla supercharging network with this, but to each their own. And I do love the styling of this Polestar 2. I think it's just right on point for my personal taste. I'll pop a link in the show notes if you want to read more. Right, let's crack on. Let's talk fast charging. No, faster than that. No. Faster than that. Let's talk ultra high-powered charging. We talk about... when you talk about fast chargers, maybe you're thinking about 22 kilowatts. Maybe you talk about rapid chargers, and the conventional wisdom is 50 kilowatts. If you talk about high-powered chargers, that seems to be 150 to 350, or some people just say 350 is high-powered chargers. But what are we going to call 400 kilowatts of chargers? And that's not a theoretical question, because they are installed right now. There's 4 of them, and they've been put in Spain by the Spanish company, the oil and gas company. How ironic. The oil and gas company called REPSOL. They're in Spain. They've just put 4 of these in for the first 4. There's going to be more of them as well. What they've got is they've got 700 kilowatts of power so that's their previous one. The previous one had 7 kilowatts of power, but divvied up amongst 4 charging stalls. So if you're on your own, you'd get very fast, and if there's 4 cars charging, it was having to share the power. However, this new set of 4 chargers, by the looks of it, from what I understand, I've looked at a couple of Spanish articles as well, and the help of Google Translate, 400 kilowatts of power available to all 4 of them. Of course, that would mean you need to have a car or a van that can take 400 kilowatts, and unfortunately, there aren't any of those, but chicken and egg and all that. It's good to have these installed. It sets a new benchmark. Just about the fastest charging thing that you could plug into it is a Porsche Taycan, which will charge at 270. That may get quicker, actually, as Porsche learn more about their batteries and unlock a bit more power with an over-the-air update. However, these are definitely ready for the future. So if you are on an 800 volts car, I suppose you'd be putting in 800 volts, you'd be putting in, 500 amps in order to get that 400 kilowatt speed. The charging rate is really impressive. And it's always worth saying, no, you won't get 400 kilowatts for the entire charging session. You'll be lucky to ever get that, depending on what car you plug into it at some point in the future when we can finally buy them. But if you do have a car that can take a fast charging speed, like even if you've got a Tesla Model 3, of course we're using the CCS combo plug here, I should mention, and you turn up with 8 or 10%, the battery's nice and warm, it's nice and low state of charge, it will suck in that juice super, super fast. Brilliant news. Well done, Repsol, and looking forward to seeing more of these rolled out, not only across Spain, but in many places as possible. Of course, I suppose you could do it a different way. You could have lower current and high voltage, so you could have like 1,000 volt commercial vehicle when they finally become available, plugging in to one in order to reach that top speed. But I think for cars, 800 volt architecture is rare. It's only with Porsche at the moment, and even then, how much quicker do chargers need to get to? As an example, recently I stopped off to get a coffee in the morning, and I thought I would time myself, and so I pulled into somewhere called Fleet Services. It's on the M3 motorway, and I pulled in. I had a 2-minute walk to Starbucks. There was a small queue. I ordered, as I always do, a filter coffee because I just prefer the taste and I like to be in and out. I don't like to wait for my coffee, but they'd run out, and so they said, "It's okay. We'll make you like a fresh Americano for the same price as the filter." It had run out, and so that took longer than I normally do. I was in Starbucks for 6 minutes. There's a bit of a queue. I was up to 8. I got back to the car. It was 10. In a world where we have 350 or 400 kilowatt fast chargers, rapid, high power chargers, what the heck do we call them? A 10-minute stop is going to add anything around 250 miles, depending on the efficiency of the car, of course, and how quickly it can take the charge. But that's a coffee stop. And I wasn't hanging around. I didn't go to the bathroom. I didn't look at magazines in the newsagents. It was a coffee stop, and it took 10 minutes. And that would give me 250 miles. I don't know if we ever need to charge EVs faster. I can't, even if they invent a better technology, why would you need it? Never say never, but 10 minutes, and that's not, even if you're not shopping, even if you're plugging in, stretch your legs, walk around the car a little bit. If you've been driving a couple of hours, refresh yourself, maybe just walk around the car, have a stretch, get some fresh air into your lungs. 10 minutes flies by. 250 miles in your car. That's just incredible. I think we've reached peak charging now. Anyway, let's move on. The move to electric transport is happening in so many places, and TORQEEDO is all about marine electric propulsion. They've developed a propulsion system that runs pure electric for the boat builder TEMPLAR Marine in Canada. The TORQEEDO drive consists of a motor and 6 lithium-ion batteries, according to electrive.com. The base model's configuration delivers 7 hours of power at a cruising speed of 5 knots. You can add more batteries, get more range, and obviously with a boats can be quite large. You can add an optional solar roof to support the charging process as well. This boat is a 26-foot semi-displacement hull, if that means something to boaty types, and it's already electric powered, proving that electric power works well for many different types of transport. And of course, because you're basically sailing with a very big battery, you can have a nice private bathroom, wash basin, refrigerator, central heating, stereo, Bluetooth, USB sockets all over this boat. The pictures look amazing. And of course, because power's not a problem, because you're sailing with a very, very big battery. I'll pop a link to Electri's article in the show notes if you want to read more. Let's go to France next. Until now, drivers of EVs have been using their RFID card or smartphone apps to start charging at a public charging station. However, the EV charging platform provider Verta and the Department of Energy in France have started a cooperation project with Hubject, you've heard of them, to offer Plug and Charge. Plug and Charge is the catchy name for ISO 15118. That's a standard of charging, which means that when you have a digital certificate, you can pull up to a charger, plug your car in, and using an encrypted data connection, the charger knows it's the car knows who you are, you've got your credit card detail in already, just like you do with Apple iTunes whenever you make a purchase, and it automatically just bills you. It's the way that charging will be very soon, and it's happening more and more and rolling out. And now in France, from 2020, these new plug and charge compatible charging stations made by Efosec are going to be rolled out in this part of France. Awesome news. I'll pop a link to where I got this story, which is newmobility.global. That was a new one on me, but good website. Hey, if you got a Tesla, by the way, a quick public service announcement. If you check out shop.tesla.com, there seems to be a new addition on shop.tesla.com, a new NEMA adapter bundle. If you fancy this, so they say it'll maximise your charging options with the Generation 2 NEMA adapter bundle, with all 7 NEMA adapters in one really cute, nice little convenient storage bag. Looks very stylish. It'll fit in your frunk. You can charge at any available outlet that you happen to come across. Attach the appropriate adapter to your Generation 2 mobile connector, plug into the outlet and begin charging. A NEMA 1450, 650, 1430, 1030, 620, 615 and 520. Everything from 7.7 kilowatts down to 1.7. If you're charging your S, your 3 or your X, this might be something that you want to pick up. We don't have NEMA connectors in this country, so I hope what I just said made some sort of sense in the US if you do have NEMA connectors there. Staying in the US then, Ford have unveiled their vision of a supercharger design, and it appears they probably have just got the tracing paper out, because you know what a Tesla supercharger looks like, you know, with the cable curled nicely in with Tesla written along the top in silver with an accent colour. Yeah, Ford just unveiled theirs, and it looks exactly the same, except where it says Tesla, they've written Lincoln, Ford's luxury brand, which is nice. You know, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. However, not only have they copied the design, they've actually made it look slightly worse, because the cable is too long for the, you know, the U shape that the Tesla cables sit in. It always just tucks really nicely in. It's a lovely design, the Tesla superchargers. This one, the cable is too long, so it almost dangles on the floor. It sort of comes out, so it's not even done really well. But you know what? Copy the superchargers. Don't copy the superchargers. Who really cares? Says Fred at Electric. The point is, we'd rather you just built out a charging network. And if you were going to do that, Ford, who cares what they look like? If you were going to commit to building a ton of these and doing your own version of a supercharging network. Good news for buses, by the way. A press release coming my way via Proterra, the heavy-duty electric transport company, announced that Miami-Dade has agreed to purchase 33 of pure electric buses and 75 Proterra chargers as well. Awesome news. Awesome news. Awesome news. Very awesome news. Awesome news. Awesome news for the East Coast. Well done. Well done, Florida, one of the most vulnerable areas of the country for climate change. And just great news that another lot of buses are getting into the market and replacing some stinky diesel. Good news as well about Tesla's production numbers. According to Clean Technica, they think we all missed a story with the announcement of the Q3 production and delivery numbers. Clean Technica say that with a total Model 3 production in Q3 of 79,837. So as near as, damn it, 80,000 Tesla Model 3s produced in a single quarter. Clean Technica say that we now know that Tesla have achieved a steady 7,000 unit a week total for the quarter. And they do a bit of a throwback to remember when the Model 3 started and we were tracking it. They've done 1,000 a week. They've done 3,000 a week. We were all watching the Bloomberg tracker. They've done 5,000 a week. And then we've hit this 7,000 target. Everyone's like, oh, I'm so over counting Model 3s. Is like what they're trying to say in this article, that no one seemed to make a song and dance about hitting this wonderful milestone. There was a point, by the way, when Tesla were aiming for 10,000 Model 3s a week out of Fremont. That's now been scaled back without massive investment. They've scaled it down to a more sensible 7,000 a week, but they're going to make up for that with the Chinese Giga factory. Right, 3 more stories. Audi and Porsche have said to other car makers, you can come and play with our toys if you want. Come and play with our train set. In other words, their electric car platform. I'm always talking about the MEB platform, which the ID3 is built on, the first VW, but we're not talking about that. We aren't. We are talking about the PPE platform, don't you know? This is the platform upon which the Porsche Taycan is built, and next year, the Audi e-tron GT. And according to the head of engineering at Audi, Ulrich Wildman, said this, and I quote, there's definitely interest. We're having conversations. Sharing technology to generate scale effects is the only way to achieve the turnaround in electric cars economically and ecologically. End quote. In an interview with Bloomberg, saying there that actually the only way to make EVs profitable is to make them at scale. Who else have we heard saying that for the last few years? Yes, it's nice that everyone's catching up, though, and it's nice that they're saying, look, we've got the platform, come and make your car upon it. And, of course, I'm sure it makes them a bit of extra money as well. So apart from those 2 cars that I mentioned, there could be more cars in the future built on the same basic platform, the skateboard, that the Porsche Taycan is built upon. Right, 2 more stories. We're talking BMW. The 1 Series is coming as early as 2021. And yes, this isn't exactly breaking news because it is at least over a year away. BMW is on a mission to electrify. We know the iX3 is coming very soon, the electric version of the very popular X3 SUV. The i4, which is going to be a sedan. The iNext, which is going to be an SUV. And then they're going to do an entry level. They're going to go up market a little bit, and then by 2021, they're going to come down to the entry level market, that sort of city size. The 1 Series, the Auto Express publication here in the UK says that BMW executives have confirmed the all-electric hatchback is in production plans for a 2021 launch in terms of a full electric 1 Series. And finally, more brilliant news about electric touring car racing. I've told you before about Cupra, which is the performance bit of Seat, which is the Spanish bit of VW. They have been testing their e-Racer, pure electric touring car. A couple of episodes ago, maybe a week ago, I played you some sounds of that heading around the Hungaroring circuit. Oh, it sounds angry. I love it. It's so good. I love car racing. Bike racing, rallying. I was in Wales last week to watch the World Rally Championship, and now fully electric touring car racing is coming. Cupra have built the zero emission e-Racer, 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds, but it's not about that straight line dash. It's all about being a track car as well. And yes, it is slower than some road cars go 0 to 60 because it is covered in aerodynamic, which means it can go round corners quite quickly. Now it's been spotted going around another test track, this time the Montmell circuit in Barcelona. It's got 500 kilowatts of power, 670 brake horsepower, and it's just going to be a rip-snorting touring car. Love it. Can't wait to see a grid full of these racing in anger. It's going to be awesome. And they're still testing. Love it. Thank you for bearing with me today. That was a biggie, but I hope it was worth it. Thank you for listening. I get so pumped about all the amazing, awesome electric car news, boat, bike, plane news that we're covering on this podcast. Hopefully spreading the word. If you can do one thing in return for me for doing all of this work, making this podcast, it does take a long time each day. Please share this with at least one person, maybe more, 2, 500. If you can share this podcast and help me grow, we'll spread the word. You and I can spread the word about electric cars together. And maybe, just maybe, somebody else will buy an EV as the result of listening to this podcast. Question of the week this week, thanks to myev.com. What segment of vehicles do you think is most important to electrify first? Is it cars? Is it buses? Is it taxis? Is it planes? What segment of transport is important to electrify first? Email me, hello@evnewsdaily.com, or check out the comment section of the YouTube. The video goes on there, and on Facebook. Thank you to 254 patrons of the podcast. If you want to be one of the names that I read out on Sundays, at patreon.com/evnewsdaily. Thank you for all my supporters. There are 604 previous shows online for free. If you want to get this show first and free and automatically before everybody else, make sure you're a subscriber on your favourite podcast platform. And we publish it every day. Come and say hi on the socials by searching EV News Daily. Have a bloomin' wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow. And remember, there's no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.